What's up, Drop Pod listeners? You can find all of our content on YouTube at the Drop Golf Podcast. You can listen to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Pods. And you can follow along on our social media, Instagram and Twitter, at the Drop_pod. No matter how you consume us, make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow and listen along.
This episode is sponsored by the Law Office of Mallon and Tranger. Tom Mallon and Randy Tranger are board-certified trial attorneys who share more than 40 years of legal experience. They specialize in personal injury matters, workers' compensation cases, and criminal and municipal defense. As certified trial attorneys, they have recovered millions of dollars on behalf of people injured in accidents and employees injured at work. They have offices conveniently located in Freehold and Point Pleasant. For skilled and personalized legal representation, call Mallon and Tranger at 732-780-0230 or check out their website at tmallonlaw.com. Not only are they good people, they're good golfers too.
All right, everyone.
What about I gotta start the...
My bad.
This is the Drop Podcast where we talk golfing in the Garden State. I'm Mike Poro, and this is Ryan Coulott.
What is up, everyone? Mike and I had a great opportunity we want to talk to you about, but before we get to that, we have a very special guest on this show, Mr. Bob Housen, New Jersey living golf legend. He's a 6-time NJSGA State Amateur Champion, 2-time NJSGA Senior Open Champion. His accolades don't do him justice. He's just a living golf legend in the state of New Jersey. We got to spend some time with him via Zoom. He's down in Florida. You know, he's well retired by now, but we talk everything about growing up from his youth, Lakewood High School, to kind of what he's doing now and how his golf journey has kind of come full circle now, and how he plays with his grandkids at 84 years young, what he's doing with golf today. Really an awesome opportunity to just talk to a grandfather, you know, and hear some golf stories and hear what he has to say. So I hope you're going to stick around for that. But before we get to that, Mike and I had an awesome opportunity to go up to Hoboken to a golf simulator that's opening up soon. February 4th, they're going to open, called Hudson Golf, right on Hudson Ave in Hoboken. An unbelievable spot. Those of you that know the area, it's a little like a block closer to the city from Texas, Arizona, right on the main strip there, right across from the PATH station. So a great location that we're going to get into that. But I want to get into something first. Leading into that, Mike and I were heading up there, and we were looking at different things and kind of where people are listening. And we have a pretty good contingency in North Jersey, particularly the Jersey City, Hoboken area. When you look at our overall numbers, 97% of our listeners are listening from the United States, which makes sense. New Jersey's in the United States. Of those numbers, we're able to break down what states people are listening from, which is really cool too. But the thing that intrigued me more as Mike and I were talking about this, 3% of our listening audience is coming from outside of the United States. And I only know one person living outside of the United States. Mike doesn't know any. So I legitimately want to know. If you're listening to this and you're outside of the United States, send us a DM. How did we get on your radar? What brought us to you? And I'd like to hear a little bit about that. That's wild to me, because it's wild to me, Mike, that we've had this going for such a short time, and even people outside of New Jersey are listening to it. And no, it's not thousands and thousands of people, but it is more than just like a friend of mine that lives in California, my brother's in California, a friend in Ohio. Like, it's more than just our people that know us. So I'm even going to go one step further. If you're listening outside of New Jersey, send us a DM. Tell us how we got to you. How did that all happen? I'm super curious, because quite frankly, I was telling Mike, like, these got to be bots. Like, I can't believe that these are real people, because Mike and I just started this. Again, we've talked about just being two schmoes that are just into golf, and it's kind of crazy to me that that people are listening to what we have to say outside of where we are. Again, if you're outside New Jersey, send us a DM. Let's get the story. I legitimately am super interested in that.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback that, I think it'd be a great thing to discuss on the podcast about how, Chris in North Carolina has heard from us, or how John in California, like all these different states, you see them on there. Like let's share their stories a little bit, because like you said, obviously the bulk of the people are from New Jersey, which is understood because that's the theme here, golfing in the Garden State. But when you start stepping outside the boundaries, it becomes an interesting story. And listen, we want to share it. We want to tell it. So listen, like always, the DMs are open. If you're part of that 2% that's listening out in Australia, shoot us a DM on Instagram at @thedrop_pod. And again, if you're outside New Jersey, let's hear from you.
Yeah, Mike, we've now talked about it for several days straight now, and it just blows my mind. It really does. So let's
real quick, Rye, before you get into Hudson Golf, because I know that's going to be a good portion of what we talk about today. I got a text message following last week's episode, which is nice because, again, that means people are listening. So if someone shoots me a text about our conversation regarding the ball in a divot, we both were adamant about the ball needs to be moved. And here's a funny thing
I got texts about this as well.
So the text I received was this: at the Bears Club in Jupiter, where it's Jack's club. The text reads specifically, I want to make sure I get this accurate so that I don't misstate it, that at the Bears Club in Jupiter, they have a local rule that you can take the ball out of a divot. Jack Nicklaus believes that you should be able to take the ball out of a divot in your own fairway. Now, some people might say Jack Nicklaus is the greatest golfer of all time. So I think we have a good person in our corner in that rule that needs to be changed.
That is
big time.
Yeah, big time. Big time. I mean, to quote the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I just went from 6 to midnight. That is.
I mean, listen, if that's not game, set, match, you tell me what is.
For 100%. That's unfucking believable.
And I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to tell you that.
I was so.
I've been sitting on that.
You sandbagging son of a bitch! How dare you do that to me? How long have you been sitting on that?
I've been sitting on that since Wednesday at like 1 o'clock. And I said, you know what?
God.
I am not going to tell him because I want the authentic response on the podcast so people can truly hear his response.
That's incredible. I was dumbfounded when you were saying it. I didn't even know what to say right away. That's unreal. That's so cool that we know, like, obviously these guys have opinions on those things, but to know that opinion, like, I'm sure Tiger has an opinion on it. I'm sure JT and Jordan Spieth, like, I'm sure all these guys, they live and breathe golf. I'm sure that anything that we talk about, like, they've forgotten more golf than we're ever going to learn in our lifetime. So they have opinions on it. That's so fucking cool to know that Jack Nicklaus shares the same opinion. That's so wild. Oh my God. I can't believe you held out on me. I'm so glad you did, though.
Yeah, I couldn't. I was gonna tell you, and then I said, you know what? I think it'd be so much better to save this and back pocket it, because I felt like no matter what, like that trumps all other things that could have come up.
Yeah.
Like it's over. In my eyes, the conversation's over. Jack agrees.
Change the rule. So a lot of, this isn't where we wanted to start, but a lot of the texts that I got, so we have very different golfing groups that we connect with. And we've talked about this a little bit. You're very connected with the golfers who are competitive, very good, the professionals in the golfing world, quote unquote professionals, not the actual PGA Tour pros, but like the teaching pros, the club pros and them. You're connected with people of that ilk. Whereas I feel like my connection is more with the everyday golfer, the guy that's more of the hacker. None of this I don't think is offensive. I think it just is what it is. Like, you're a good golfer, a good handicap, someone who plays competitively. I enjoy playing. I'm not a great handicap. I'd like to be better, but don't we all? But I knock it around a little bit. So my texts that I got were from my contingency. the guys who are following golf rules loosely about, like, why is that even a thing? Like, it should be for tournament play. That's the rule. It's play it down, but everybody else is just rolling it over. And I go, I understand that, but I'm saying that even the tournament golfer should be able to roll it over. And not only that, you're supposed to be following the rules. Just because you don't like this one doesn't mean that you don't follow it. The same thing, like, just because I think the drinking age should be 18, it's still 21. You're still doing something illegal when you were drinking underage. So I mean, like, just because you don't like the rule and don't follow it doesn't mean you're not supposed to, was my argument. And I don't care if I go out with my foursome that I'd go out with. I have no problem with any of us rolling it over in the fairway. That's not like a thing for me. I'm not saying, like, even if we're playing for money, yeah, that's what I believe. But technically, you're not supposed to. So it was just kind of funny that, like, the people who I talked to are like, that's not a thing because we do that anyway. And I was like, I get that you do that, but you're not supposed to. That's the thing. It's something we disagree with. So it was just... It was kind of funny. You had a much better interaction with it than mine was, but it was just like, it's just kind of funny coming from two different worlds there. But fuck, that's cool. That's so awesome.
There are certain things I have to back pocket, and then I find the right time to make your day, you know?
I am so happy right now. That's really cool. I'm glad you saved that, because that is really good. All right, so let's move on to our day at Hudson Golf there. I think I started opening up with, they got a great location. It's a beautiful spot. I like the setup. I thought it was really cool. They got like a little outdoor that they want to do something with, kind of like a patio. Not real big, but during the summertime, you could definitely see grabbing drinks and then going downstairs while you wait for your tee time, or your quote-unquote tee time. You walk up this like grand staircase. It's got all this exposed brick. You know, this chandelier at the top of the staircase is awesome. They just have such a, like, there's just so many little intricacy things that are just really, it's really going to be amazing there. They got 5 bays that they have there. One of them's a teaching bay. And the thing that I took away from this, Mike, the biggest thing that for me was, they're trying to do not just an indoor golf simulator, but they're trying to do a bar as well. Like, this isn't an indoor golf simulator that has a liquor license. They're a bar. Like, they want people to come there for drinks. That's what they expect. People to be, hey, it's a Friday night, let's go to Hudson Golf. We're not playing golf. They got good cocktails. They got good food. They got a world-class chef that's going to be cooking food. It's not just going to be, fryer, your mozzarella sticks, nachos, that kind of thing. They got a real menu there. So they expect to be a working full bar/restaurant that also has golf simulators, while also being a golf simulator that has world-class food and drink. It's really a unique concept, and I think they got it right so far. They got the location. They seemingly have all the things that are needed. They have the setup. They should have the built-in clientele with being at the south side of Hoboken that you can kind of come to. It's by the path. And I think that the foot traffic, the people who are itching to be in the city that doesn't have a golf course nearby, I think that they've struck gold there, and it's going to be a really profitable endeavor for them. Both money-wise, but also like they got a blueprint for something that's really great. So yeah, Mike, I can't I can't say enough good things about this place and what they got going on. But why don't you share a little bit about how we got connected to Hudson Golf and how that kind of started?
Yeah, I mean, listen, just like everything, and I know we say it all the time, but like DMs are constantly flying in, and when this was, when we started more or less, and their project was beginning, I kept, commenting on how amazing it was going as it was progressing, and as it got closer, Daniel had DM'd me and said, hey, listen, when we get up and running, we'd love to have you and Ryan come up and check this place out. Give us your opinion. Just come see it. And frankly, I'd never been to Hoboken personally in my life. I've never been up that area. I had no clue where I was going. But I had obviously texted a lot of buddies and said, what's this like? And they're like, dude, that spot's going to be sick. Clearly, the views that they had been putting out on Hudson Golf on their Instagram was amazing. So we kept going back and forth about finding the best time and date to go up there, because they were waiting on a few other inspections to get clearance and whatnot. So we finally got to go up there on Friday. And, first off, meeting, Daniel firsthand, he's a quality fucking person. I mean, there's no two ways around it. He's just authentic.
No doubt about that.
Yeah, he's authentic. He's real. He gets it. He's personable. You couldn't find a better director of golf for a spot than him. He clearly is motivated to do the best job he can. And then on the back end of that, you got two owners that are all in on it. You got Hunter and you got Aaron that are like all about making that experience not just a golf one, but an overall just quality spot and experience, because it's not just geared towards the golfer. Just because you're a golfer and you like to play, it's not just, a one-way street, as we talked about that day for them. You can go there, you can have a few drinks, you can have a quality meal. Again, it's not the mozzarella sticks, it's good food. And then again, like when they are able to open those windows and you look outside and you see the city in a distance, I mean, it's as pure comes. And I think they hit the jackpot in terms of, again, having a liquor license, which is only one of two indoor simulators in the state that has it, and then B, the first indoor simulators bar restaurant in Hudson County. I mean, those are two slam dunks when you think about people in the city that are looking to play golf. There's nowhere to go. And like they mentioned, if they try to get on Skyway, it's now at the time of the year it's closed. And then, you're trying to get a tee time and it's jam-packed. And if you don't have that, unbelievable membership to those private courses in the area, then you got nothing. You're, like they said, you're taking the train into the city to go play at 5-iron golf. And now you have a spot, an opportunity to be entertained that also works in the social aspect of things as well as the golfing aspect of things. It's a perfect spot. And I think that just goes to prove, like, when we say it, you and I, like, hey, listen, DM us and, we'd love to come up, check it out. Like, there's the perfect example. Like, Daniel and I had going back and forth. I've never met Daniel in person. I'd never met Hunter or Aaron. I didn't know their backstory. But just like a lot of things, like when we get there and we're able to now put a name with a face and a voice, like, I think those are the types of things and the relationships that are able to be formed that people look back and say, okay, wow, these guys aren't just two guys schmoozing trying to get a spot. Like, no, like, we're here to promote, to talk, to experience all things golf in the Garden State. And I think that is just another example of what this amazing spot and state really has to offer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I have only positive things to say. I can't say enough good things about it, and I don't think you could either. You know what I also found interesting, Mike, was the connection that Daniel, the director of golf, and Hunter and Aaron had. They were looking for that marriage there is perfect. They were both looking for the exact same things, and you could tell right away that their passion and their idea for this place is perfectly aligned. It was, and they said it too. They said that Daniel basically read their pitch back to them without even seeing it, which leads me to good things are happening there.
Yeah, there's no doubt that I think the saying of a match made in heaven, that's it. They got everything. They got the location, they got the director of golf, they got very smart, young, savvy owners, and then you throw in the bar and the restaurant.
No doubt.
To me, that's like icing on the cake.
Yeah, so guys, go, if you're in that area, the New York City, Jersey City, Hoboken area, and even if you're not and you want a really awesome time, go check them out. They're opening up February 4th. It's going to be a great time. Check them out on Instagram at Hudson Golf. We're fully on board. They got something really special going on.
And Rod, just to kind of reiterate the wrap-up of Hudson Golf, and just to kind of further prove my point about them being savvy, young, quality people in terms of who's there and who's operating that places. They've been kind enough to give us a little giveaway here. So you'll see tomorrow, Thursday, it'll be a 48-hour making sure you guys see this, respond, because again, this is a great opportunity for you to go to experience it more or less on them. So it'll come out Thursday. Again, you'll have 48 hours. The names will go in the wheel, and then again, hopefully your name is chosen. If it is, they're being kind enough to even send the person the gift card rather than it coming directly from me. So it's even great in terms of collaborating with people that are like-minded like us, that are trying to get people in and check out their stuff more or less. So that Instagram post will be posted tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Dr. Mike Pomacala at Sports Solutions Physical Therapy and Performance Development is located in Middletown, New Jersey. A Titleist Performance Institute medical practitioner, Dr. Mike uses a hands-on approach with his clients to get them out of pain and back onto the golf course. No pain, no problem. Assessments available for golfers looking to improve flexibility, power, strength, stability, and overall efficiency with their golf swing. Don't let dysfunction disrupt your swing. Schedule an evaluation with a TPI physical therapist and check out Dr. Mike at sportsolutionspt.com and on Instagram at sportsolutionspt.
Mike, I kind of want to change gears. I know our thing is golfing in New Jersey, but I thought this would be kind of appropriate. The PGA Tour stop this week is at Torrey Pines for the Farmers. I have a brother that lives in California, so last year I went to go visit him, and I went to play Torrey. So I thought it might be appropriate to take a couple minutes and just tell you a little bit about my experience there. Torrey's unbelievable. I don't know how else to say it. It is just stunningly beautiful. You can tell it's public. It doesn't have that, like, how you go to Pinehurst and it kind of has that country club feel to it, even though it's a public track. To me, Torrey didn't have that. It definitely felt like a public, it felt more like Bethpage and its publicness than country clubness. So I spent the whole day there. I had like a 9:30 tee time. Came up from San Diego. It's about 20 minutes north. Did the whole putting green and all that kind of stuff. Played my round, and then did an early dinner there with my brother and his girlfriend, overlooking while the sun's kind of, we stayed long enough to watch a little bit of the sunset there, and it was magical. It's the only way to put it. It is a wonderful, wonderful place. If anybody is ever out on the West Coast, anywhere near Torrey Pines, it's a must go. I know it's a little expensive. I think it was like $250 to play, and it was probably like, I think it was like $50, $70 to like reserve the tee time or something like that. They get you. They get you for a big knock, but man, it is well worth it. So I've taken a whole bunch of pictures. The putting green is enormous. So I'm just kind of enjoying myself. I'm there, it's a random. I think it was there on like a Tuesday or something. It's just open. It's just me. I'm not tied down to anything. So they call my tee time. I head to the first tee, and I get paired up with 3 ladies. These ladies were very nice, but as everybody is listening to this, that's a male that's ever played golf, gets paired up with women, it can be challenging. And I want to be as politically correct there as possible. I didn't have that experience, though. These women were awesome. They were like, I almost felt like they were my own little cheering gallery, because they could get it around the golf course. They probably shot in the low hundreds. It was as enjoyable around as it could be. They were 3 wonderful ladies. And I felt like I had my own cheering squad, because I played pretty decently. I shot 83.
83? Timeout, full timeout. Sit down for a second.
Okay.
83.
Yep.
No mulligans. Nope. You played the very first tee shot of the day. You need to call those 3 ladies up and have them just follow you around as a gallery moving forward. Because if Dr. Mike says he's getting you to a scratch handicap before the fall, you better get those ladies back, because you need that. If you're going 83 at Torrey Pines, if you shoot above 85 at Charleston, I don't know what to tell you.
So I didn't play it. I didn't play the championship teams.
I
didn't play the backs.
You're playing with 3 unknown people at Torrey Pines, which makes it even more anxiety-ridden, because it's the unknown of the course and the people. And you shot 83. Right. You better email, text, DM, whatever it is. Find those 3 ladies' names out and bring them to Jersey.
So what's funny about that, Mike, is I shot 83 from the green tees, which is basically like they have the black tees, but they're only open during like the US Open and the Farmers, or you can get permission. So like they're like the professional tees. I think they top out at like 7,900. Then they have brown tees, which is like their back tee, because nobody can usually play the black tees. That's like 7,000, and then so I played the green, which was like, and I've pulled up the scorecard now, which is 66. And I ended the day. The 18th hole has water in front of the green, which by this point in the day I wasn't thinking about. So it's an 83 with dunking my approach in the water on 18. I did play well that day. But again, it was super casual. I never felt pressure. I never felt like I had, it was a really casual round. It was really fun. Some drinks with the ladies, and just moving around the course was super easy. It was an awesome experience. And if anyone's in that area, it's a must go to. Don't let the price of it deter you from it. It was really cool to be there. They do a really good job with, like, on the first tee, they got like a quote unquote Hall of Fame kind of thing on the, like, behind the tee box there, of like, they got like a plaque for Tiger, a plaque for Jack. They got some of the historic things that have happened there. They got some really cool pieces. And then the view, you can't beat it. You just can't. You're on the cliffs in Southern California, looking over at the water. I mean, some of the holes you tee off and the cliff is the end of the tee box there. It was just beautiful, just beautiful. I spent a whole bunch of money there in the pro shop getting different things for different people, but it was great. And then to have dinner, watch the sunset by that time now, and it was a great day, really a wonderful day. And I just thought, Mike, it'd be appropriate just to kind of mention a couple things that about it, that with the tour going there this week, I thought it was pretty appropriate to give Torrey Pines a little plug there. All right, everyone. So that's going to be it for Mike and I today. Hudson Golf, must check out. Give the Farmers a watch. Torrey Pines has some beautiful views. But right now we're going to send it to our interview with Mr. Housen. Again, Mr. Housen is an absolute legend of New Jersey golf and a certain must listen. He's got a whole bunch of good stories. He's got a fun one of him when he played with Gary Player, just one of the times he played with Gary Player. So, again, a must listen. Here's that interview.
All right, so I'll get started here. So, I think, for our audience here, we've been fortunate to have some of the, up and coming guys like Chris Goddard up on the show. We've had some unbelievable amateurs, some very good local head pros, as well as some directors of instruction. But today we got the living legend, I think, the man, the myth himself when it comes to New Jersey golf, Mr. Bob Housen. I'm sure I could go on a long list of accolades, but I want to name a few here. Mr. Housen is a 6-time New Jersey State Golf Association State Amateur Champion. He's a 7-time New Jersey State Golf Association Pre-Seniors Champion. He was also inducted to the NJSGA Hall of Fame in 2018, where he was also named the Player of the Year award is now named after Mr. Housen. Mr. Housen, I thank you for coming on our show and giving us some time here.
Well, I'm very pleased to be here, and thank you very much. And now that I'm retired, I got all the time in the world. So what do you want? I have a variety of things we can go through, I'm sure.
Yeah, listen, I when I pitched the idea to Chris, I said, I want to explain kind of what Ryan and I are here doing, and is really trying to bring another sense of awareness to golfing in the Garden State, because I think not only the golf courses that you hear about, but also the players itself. I think the way media works now is, sometimes you hear people write about it and some people will tweet or post about it, but there's not a spot or an outlet where people can actually sit down and talk and hear stories from so many unbelievable people. And, when I kept tossing ideas around, I said, well, God, who better to have on than you? Because I think when, people hear your name and they hear New Jersey State Golf Association, it's an unbelievable story. From your accolades to your successes to everything. So I guess let's start kind of with your journey. I understand that, you were inducted to Lakewood High School's Hall of Fame, where you played basketball, golf, and baseball. And then obviously, to Manasquan River, to the NJSGA, to your successes in the USGA events. Why don't you give the audience a little background about you?
Well, I will, but I don't like to talk about myself very much, quite honestly. But I can tell you a little bit about the golf in 50s, where I started to play, and a couple of changing points in my life. At that point in time, I went out on the high school golf team as a freshman, was a 90 shooter. And as soon as I was out with those guys, I could see right away what a great game this was. Although I caddied for my father a lot, I didn't realize it as much until I started to play. So I practiced a lot in a sand pit with a wooden shafted club and everything else. And by the time I became a sophomore, I was a mid-70 shooter. So it took a lot. It wasn't a natural thing that all of a sudden you're a good player. They say, oh, you're a natural. No, it requires a lot of work. And I was very fortunate. I got to meet people like Lou Barbero, who was a phenomenal golf pro out of Hollywood. My father was a great player. And I learned to play golf by watching them play. We didn't have lessons. The only lesson I ever got when I started, somebody said, keep your left arm straight. That was it. And, I mean, that's probably all I could have handled anyway, but that's how it was. And then, so I really enjoyed the game of golf. And my father took me aside and he said, you like to play baseball, but by the time you're 25 years old, you won't be able to play baseball anymore. And if you like to compete, you better start playing golf. So I did. And in my sophomore year of high school, Coach Wright was our coach, and he was a phenomenal coach. He was a football coach and a golf coach, and very good player, very competitive. And I was playing second man on the team at that time. And I got up on the first hole and I topped the tee shot and it hit a stump down there at Lakewood and everything. And I'm hollering and mad and everything. And he tells me, he said, Bobby, if you're playing two sports, you can't expect to do any better than that. So he was right. I turned in my uniform the next day in baseball, and the baseball coach got excited. It was so, and I practiced and practiced very hard over the next 2 weeks, and we played the state championship at Colonial and Lakewood, and we won. We won by a stroke. We had on the team was Eddie Levy, myself, Pete Scope, and Carl Klein. And I shot 77, I think. Pete was 79, something like that. But anyway, we played pretty well. And in the newspapers the next day, the Klein didn't play so well. He made a 20-foot on the last hole for a 90. And then the newspaper had his picture on there, said Klein's 90 wins state amateur. We were all over him because he was kind of a little arrogant guy. And we were on his case. Now, the next year, the tournament was at Manasquan River. And the team was I was on it along with Al Krushewitz and Carl Klein again. And the last one was Dawson. I forget his first name. But it's a rainy day. We're having a northeast storm. And I go through the first 9 holes and I shoot 41. The guy comes up to me on the tee and he said, "Are you Lakewood's #1 man?" He said, "We're from Montclair. Are you Lakewood's #1 man?" I said, "Yes." He said, "What do you shoot?" "What'd you shoot?" I said, "I shot 41. He goes, "Well, we're from Montclair. We're going to beat you guys this year." I said, "Why don't you talk to me when we get in? We'll see how that works out." That was Robert Trent Jones Jr., the golf course architect.
Wow.
That's who it was. So on the last hole, I knock it out of bounds, but I still shoot a 38. I knock it out of bounds by a foot, and I was livid. But I shot 79, and I came in, and there were no other scores in the 70s. Carl Klein comes in, he shoots 79. Krushewitz came in, he shot like 82, 83, and the last guy shot like 85.
I thought you were going to say 90 again.
No, that guy, Carl was good. He had 77. So anyway, we won the state by like 23 strokes. Now, Manasquan River, when you play it in a northeast storm, you really, that wind comes off that ocean and river, and it's exciting. So that was high school golf. It was really a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. And I got to play with Jerry Barnett, my friend from Manasquan. And as a matter of fact, in my senior year, I think I lost 3 matches through my whole time. But my senior year, I lost 1 match, and that was to Jerry. And Jerry lost 1 match, and that was to me. And he beat me at Lakewood, and I beat him in Manasquan. When he was in his teens, 14, 15 to 17, there was nobody around could touch him. I used to caddy at Manasquan like you, and he was a member there, but he was a phenomenal player. And when he was getting ready to decide whether he wanted to, and he told me this, when he wanted to go to college or play professional golf. And his father asked him, what did he want to do? Well, Jerry was a pretty smart guy. And he said, I think I'm going to go to college. And he went to, I believe he went to Petty for a year or so, and then went on to Duke and became a very successful businessman. Very, very strong competitor, and we had some real fights down the roads, but we always had a tremendous amount of respect for him.
And then Mr. Housen, so obviously for as long as I can recall, I'm 39 and I've been caddying at Manasquan for 25.
You
39.
can't be 39.
39. I'll be 40.
You're 12. I remember you.
Listen, I remember starting caddying. I was 13 years old at Manasquan River. So I've been there for 25 years. Just, obviously maybe even a little longer with my grandfather and whatnot. But like in terms of my memory of that place, like what kind of led you specifically to that place?
Well, I caddied there. I started caddying there in the 50s, early 50s. I would come up with Pop Pelkey, who was the caddy master. He would drive his sons and me up to the golf course, and then we would hitchhike. I would hitchhike home. But the golf course was just so magnificent. At that time, we had the ospreys all over the course, on 5 and 6 and 7. And I mean, it was just incredible. And so I caddied there. And then when I had the opportunity to join the golf course, and when I was about 40, I took that opportunity, and it's always been my favorite place. I mean, there's a mystique about Manasquan. It's just unbelievable. And I always love the membership, and in the course is just, so many good golfers came out of Manasquan, and I started to figure out why. We never had a range, but what we did have, we had terrain, we had wind, we had everything. You had to learn to play every kind of golf shot there was in order to play Manasquan River. It wasn't like some of the courses where everything is flat. I mean, and you never got the same shot over again. It was always a different shot. And I think that made the Wall Boys better. I know it made Christopher better. I'm sure it made me better. And it just brought out there was not a golf course I could go to that could place a shot to me that I hadn't seen before at Manasquan. And that's probably, you could probably affirm that.
Yeah. Mike speaks very highly of that place there.
Have you played there?
So the only time I've played is for your event, and I only seem to get the waterside holes. The farthest back I've been is 11. So I've played like 11 through 1. Is kind of every time that we've come, I've just seemed to happen to get put on the water side. Well, again, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but Mike speaks so highly of it. We had Chris on a couple weeks ago, and Chris spoke so highly of it. It's funny that you talk about like having so many different shots, because some courses, like some people that play golf, they like to go to a course and they enjoy the ease of it, where they can just go out and have a nice casual round. But then as you said, that handicap's not going to travel to a place. Whereas a place like Manasquan, it's going to force you to be better, and then your game is going to travel with you. And when you add that with being competitive, as it sounds you were as a youngster, that's going to lead to the long list of accolades that you have there.
So Ryan and I were going back because I talk obviously so highly of Manasquan River and my experiences there as a caddy, as a player, and just kind of as a person when I'm at the golf course itself. And the running joke all the time is like, I always say, like, I'm not being biased, and I always have something positive to say about Manasquan River. And I think what Ryan's learning is that there is an aura about that place that is just unique to other spots. And it again, I think it probably started way back when Wayne Worms was the head professional. And I think everything from there has kind of trickled down, and everybody that has kind of run the show since then has put their own little stamp to make it even better. Can you attest to that?
Yes, I would actually go back as far as Johnny Cafone, because Johnny Cafone used to make golf clubs with Jack Beckett. When I was in high school, I worked in the shop with him and worked on some of the clubs too, when I had no talent at all. But it goes back all the way there. And then he trained Wayne. And from that point on, everything has just been phenomenal. Our golf pros are as good as you get. So each one has his own style. And we really like them. We don't change golf pros very often. And we're very fortunate with that. Those
and pros. I think that's exactly it. That's the testament to being there. You know, that why would you leave a place that's so good? And doesn't Baltusrol, aren't they only on like their sixth professional or something like that in their history? So like there's certain reasons why, like, if someone's at a place, if it's great to you, and why would you leave it? So that's certainly a huge stamp of approval for that reason. Yeah.
They're all very professional people. What subject would you like to talk about?
So I want to dive into the NJSGA events and your history there. But before I get to that point, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up, because I know my dad listens all the time to these things, and he's very quick to, give his 2 cents to me about things. But do you know that you were, and I'm sure you do, that you were a 6-time club champion at Manasquan River? And do you know the last year you played and won was 1987?
Yeah, 7 times.
7 times. I stand corrected then. And then do you know who won it the year after that you stopped playing?
Your dad did.
He did. Yeah. So
won it on the 15th hole.
And I have to tell him that, Dad, that gets an asterisk, because Mr. Housen did not participate in that one. So I have to make sure I say that out on this podcast, because when he listens to it,
he did that all on his own. But I remember that and he won on the 15th hole, and I shook his hand afterwards. I watched him play the whole time, and it was really good. Your dad's a good player.
Yeah. So let's get in.
He's even a better man.
He's allowed to. So
that's okay.
I know you said you started caddying at Manasquan. When does the transition from caddy to member happen, or is there a gap between?
Oh, there's a big gap. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There was. I went into the military service when I was 18, the Navy. And when I got out of the Navy, I realized I didn't want to be in the golf business. I wanted to do something else. So I looked around to I had different jobs in construction, which I have no ability whatsoever, and a couple of other things. And I said, I don't want to do this. And so I got into the insurance business, and then I went to college in the evenings. And I realized I wanted to play golf, but I didn't want to play it. I wanted to play it for fun. I did not want to play it for a living. And so I didn't join a private golf course until I was like 38, because I was raising a family and had to feed everybody.
That tends to happen.
Yeah. Then I joined Manasquan in 1980. That's
okay.
Now that's an interesting thing. Bob Scrabus, who I don't know if you know him or not, but he used to be the quarterback of the Titans years ago, and Penn State. And he told me, he said, you belong to Woodlake now, but that could change anytime. Why don't you join Manasquan? And I didn't think about it, and I said, okay, that sounds great. So he and Jerry Barnett signed me up there. Jerry Barnett wanted me to come along, although he knew he was going to have some competition. But that was the kind of guy Jerry was. He didn't care about winning. He wanted to have competition. And so he sponsored me. So I joined in 1980 and been there ever since.
Very interesting. Yeah, I teach history, so I like to put timelines together. So I was just trying to.
Well, there's some
looking at your years.
Interesting timelines. When I was playing golf at Lakewood, I would place some of the public links tournaments and things like that. I won the state public links, I know, but I don't know when. But we had a golf pro there, and his name was Jim Taylor, very old pro, and he knew Fred Barnes and all of those old guys. And he helped me a bit. He kept telling me things I couldn't understand what he was talking about, but I tried him and whatever. But he taught me how to putt. And he kept telling me, you're the best amateur in the state. I said, I'm not the best amateur in the state. No, I'm not. And he said, yes, you are. You got to play in the tournament. Well, I didn't start playing those tournaments until in my very early 30s. I won the first state amateur when I was 35 at Sunny Jim Golf Course. I think it's called Medford Lakes or Medford Village now. And I won the last one at Manasquan when I was 55. So wow. Through that 20-year span, and then, if it wasn't for Jim Taylor encouraging me, I wouldn't have started it. And then when in '73, when I won the amateur, that was the start of it. Then I started getting invited to different tournaments and things, and it sort of took off from that point on.
Right. So it's interesting that like I don't know if this is quite the right phrase, but a little bit of a late bloomer there.
Oh yeah, very much so. Well, I was, because I didn't have any money, and I had little kids, and I wasn't going to, I wasn't going to be playing golf when I had to work. And
right.
So then when my business got better in the mid-30s, then it was a different call. But I didn't play too many national events, very few, because I couldn't. I always wanted. I played a lot in the local areas in Philadelphia, New York, metropolitan area, in New Jersey, because I could be home at night, and that was more important to me than I wasn't going to fly out to Tucson in the middle of July and play in the amateur. I played in the national amateur, when they had it at Marion. I got to the top 16 then when I was 50. I remember that, but that was close. Those were places where I could, and there was plenty. Let me tell you, there was plenty of competition here. All the guys here were as good as you're going to find any place in the country.
When you look back at your, obviously the unbelievable amount of wins, more or less, or victories when it comes to the NJSGA events, like what are some things that stands out to you about your career in terms of those types of championships? Like, is it the wins, the victories, the friendships, the golf courses, the people? Like, obviously I listened to your YouTube speech about when you got inducted to the NJSGA Hall of Fame, and I got the vibe that like the friendships that you made and the memories you had with those guys and competing against them, carried the most weight over the win.
Well, yes, by far. When I first started playing outside of New Jersey, there was a gentleman by the name of Sidoroff, and there was a fellow by the name of Corville. Sidoroff was a top guy. He had played in the British seniors, or the British amateur, and done very well. But he was really, and he's a friend, but he's rough around the edges. He's, Now the other guy was just the opposite. He was a very friendly, he was a fine gentleman, and Corville, Jerry Corville Sr. And I looked at these two guys and I said, which one of these guys do I really look up to? And it was Corville Sr. And so I was very conscious of how I portrayed myself in these tournaments. And I wanted to be a gentleman first. And I didn't think you had to be a bad guy to win. I thought if you conducted yourself right and people respected you, that was more important. So I got to meet an awful lot of great people. And Corville was the start of it. When I looked at it, I said, this is a top guy in the area. What kind of guy is he? And how does he take care of himself? And what does he do? And, you'd meet great guys and not so great guys. So I always wanted to be the good guy. I didn't want to be the badass. That didn't appear to me at all to be a sensible thing to do.
Do you think there was one win that stands out more so than, gosh, we could go on a whole laundry list of wins. Was there one that stood out more so than any other?
Well, I would say yes and no. They all were very important, but the first state amateur I won in '73, that sort of convinced me that I could play, which I didn't believe I could, but Jim Taylor said I could, so I played. And in the last two rounds, this golf course we played, they gave you, if you shot even par on the golf course, and you were an amateur and you came and shot even par, they gave you a television. It was so hard. And it was held down in Medford, down Medford Village area. And one of the few times the amateur left North Jersey. And when I saw it was scheduled there, I said, these North Jersey guys have no idea what they're going to walk into when they come and play this golf course. So and I had played it a couple times. I knew how hard it was. So the first round, I think I shot something like a 73 or 4, something like that. And I was within 1 stroke of the leader around the lead. And then the next round, I played poorly. I shot like 79. And I was really upset with myself. And then they rained it out the next day. So you came back afterwards, and I had a bit of time to cool off. Well, anyway, I shot 71, 71 the last 2 and won by 6. And the next guy in back of him was a good 10 shots back. So it was,
holy cow.
You take a look at the scores of that 1973 amateur, and you'll see scores that you can't believe. Chet Sanick, he's shooting 85s. You know, the golf course was unbelievable. But that sort of convinced me that, you know, maybe I ought to pay some more of these things. So that got me started. But every tournament was very, very good. Enjoyed all the wins.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd enjoyed some of the losses, to tell you the truth. I have a story that you might like to hear. You know, I played in 6 senior opens.
Yeah, I got that in my notes. And you were the low amateur in 1988 as well as 1995.
Yeah.
And then along in 1995, you were Golf Digest's 3rd ranked senior amateur in the country.
Yeah, that's true.
Did my research, Mr. Housen.
Yeah, you did. Well, here's an interesting thing. This you didn't know. I have a lot of stories about this, but this one I think you would really appreciate. Your people would appreciate knowing this. I was playing at Pinehurst number 2, and I had signed up with guys from New Jersey that I knew to play a practice round, and none of them showed up. None of them showed up. So I go to the tee. None of them. They were all pros, and I don't know what they were doing, but they weren't practicing. So I go to and I tell the starter, I said, I'm not going to play by myself. I'm not going to do that. He says, that's good. That's fine. So a couple minutes later, he says, I've got a group for you. It's a threesome. You can join. And so I go, and in that group was Charles Cootie. You remember him? He won the Masters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So they all hit off, and I go and I tee my ball up. I'm getting ready to hit the ball, and Cootie comes and tells me, he says, you know, we only wanted to play 3 this time. And I looked at him and I said, well, that means you don't want to play golf with me. I said, to tell you the truth, I wasn't too charged up about playing with you either, to tell you. So now I go to the putting green. I'm really hot now. And on the putting green is a lot of good guys, Gordon Brewer and guys that I know. And they're saying, I thought you were in it. No. And I'm telling them what's going on. So now the poor starter, he feels terrible. And so he comes up to me on the putting green. He says, I got a game for you if you'd want it. And I said, who was it with? He says, Gary Player. I said, yeah, we want that. So I go up there and I meet Gary and his caddy, and another fellow's going to play with us. He's from California. And he tells me he's 65 years old. And I said, well, you know, 65 to me is young. It's 20 years less than I am now. So anyway, we tee off, and Gary says, we're going to play a scat game. So the guy says to me, how much are we playing for? And I tell him, does it really matter? I said, people pay $10,000 to play with this guy. We're playing with him for nothing. And, you know, whatever we're playing for, it doesn't really matter. So he and his caddy start telling stories. And one is funnier than the next. And I'm having the greatest time of my life. And we get up to like the 4th hole. And Gary Player takes off and he runs across the fairway to this guy in a wheelchair. And I followed him across there. And he goes up to the guy and he grabs the guy's arms. And he said, if I had arms like this, I'd win every tournament I played in, and so on and so forth. And as he leaves, I said, Gary, why'd you do that? He said, have you any idea what that man had to go through just to get here to watch this? He said, that's the least I could do. So right away, I became a fan, you know. And so in these tournaments, if you're a nobody like me, you only can hit one ball. But if you're Gary Player, you can hit as many balls as you want. and he threw them in all these different bunkers, and he's getting them up and down and everything, and he's doing right. And then we get to the 17, he hits an iron up on the green, and he said to me, he said, Bob, he said, I never could hit the ball straight. He said, if I didn't hook the ball, I couldn't play at all. He said, I never tried to hit the ball straight, hit everything, you know, with a draw. So Gary says to me, he says, Bob, you just played 18 holes with me. Did you see anything I was doing wrong? I look at him and I go, wow, Gary, you won every tournament in the world twice. I'm a financial planner in Manasquan, New Jersey. What the hell are you asking me that question for? And I played with him a couple times since, and you know, a really, really good man. So I've had, you know, I played with Nicholas in some things. So I played with a lot of guys in some interesting events. Nicholas, when I was playing with him at his golf course, he told me something I never would have imagined. He said when he was playing at the top of his game, his irons had shafts in them just a little stronger than lady shafts.
Wow.
Interesting.
He was a tough, strong dude too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, why would that be? And then it dawns on me, he's playing golf courses where the ball has to come in high. So, you know, he could hit a 7-iron 150 yards or 200 yards, whatever he wanted. So he decided he wanted to hit 7-irons at 150 yards and control the ball. Right. So he would hit it way up in the air. And when you played these courses like Baltusrol and, you know, and some of the top courses, the ball has to come in soft. If it comes in hard, you can't get it near the hole. Right. So he used to put weight in the grips of the clubs, a counterweight, which, you know, when he told me these things, I'm saying, if I read it in Golf Digest, I wouldn't believe it. But yeah, he did. He did. A little stronger than lady shafts, and they were a little shorter. They were maybe a 3/4 of an inch shorter than a normal iron.
So, Mr. Housen, I guess I kind of obviously also want to talk about, you know, golf and being it's such like an integral part of your family as well. Like I know that, you know, not only is Chris a phenomenal player, you know, but Patrick is as well, and your wife. I don't know if your daughter is into the game. I don't, but I do know that your other children and wife do play a lot. Like, can you, and obviously I understand your dad was a huge part in your life in the game. So like, when you think about like your family in the game of golf, like what has that meant to you guys?
Well, it's extremely important. I got into the game because my father, obviously, and my mother was club champion at Lakewood. And my father was club champion a number of times. He had the course record of 64 for a number of years. Now they changed the golf course, so it's different now. But he was the top guy, and he used to play those pro-ams they would have every summer with Lou Barbero and all the different pros in the area and him. And he had his average that year, the 1 year I remember, was 71 point something. So he was a very fine golfer. And got me started in the game, and I played a lot of golf with him, and I learned a lot from him. Self-taught. He was extraordinary. And my mother, she was a very, very good athlete. My mother was, she used to do long range shooting with those rifles where they would shoot like 500 yards and things like that.
Yeah.
And she was so good with this when she took it up, and hadn't been doing it that long, but she was so good that she was, you know, almost ready for the Olympic trials. And then she became pregnant with me, and that was the end of that. So that was the end of her shooting. But they had an article in the newspaper, and you have to understand my father to know this. My father is they used to do a lot of hunting. We used to hunt in those days, rabbits and things like that. And a guy in the newspaper wrote an article. He said, I'm looking at these results from these shooting competitions, and I think Ducky'd be far better off sending Lillian out to get the rabbits than him. He didn't care for that much. But yeah, they're wonderful people. And then when Margie and I got married, she did not play golf, but she's a good athlete. And we decided kind of early that she ought to take up the game because it would serve us well as we got older. And she's a good player. And I play most of my golf now with her, 9 holes in the evenings and things like that. That's and she's good now. She's getting to the point where she's almost out driving me, which is sort of a little tough to handle. But outside of that, but yeah. And then Chris and Pat, and then Paige is a lot of it. That's my daughter, but she's raising these children, and they're 17 now. She has triplet boys.
Wow.
And I pack them together, and we go out and we play on the weekends at the county courses, and I'm teaching them to play golf, and they've had some lessons with Wayne, and they like the game, but they're very busy with a lot of things going on. They're musicians primarily, but the golf is very important to us, and all my friends are around golf, so wonderful sport.
You and your wife must be a dynamic 9 and dine duo there. Between the two, you must be.
I'm not dynamic anything anymore. But my wife and I, we won the state mix the first time we ever played. And she was not a player, but that was alternate shots. So whenever she would get on the green, I would just tell her where to hit the ball, and she would hit it. And she putted phenomenal. And we were tied for low. And then they were going to set a playoff with another group. And there was no way we could possibly win the playoff. But the other group said, they don't want to play. We can have it. That's pretty good. But she is competitive in her own right, but she likes to play golf for the fun of it. She never cared much for the ladies grinded it out in the club championships. She doesn't care for that too much. So, but she's good.
Oh, that's great. Mr. Housen, I want to ask you about kind of going back to your competitive side and some of your accolades. Is there one thing about you or about your golf game that you think made you as successful as you were, whether it's a facet of your game or something to do with your personality, not letting the highs be too high, the lows be too low? Is there one thing that you could pinpoint that?
Well, I practiced a lot from 100 yards in, and I really didn't have a lot of time to be beating balls and to work on your drivers and your 3 irons and stuff. So I figured that if I was very good from 100 yards in, then I had a chance to win no matter how I hit the ball, whether I hit it good, bad, or indifferent. And so I spent a lot of time on that. And I spent a lot of time putting 5 and 6 foot putts. Those are, I'd stand there and I'd putt 50 or 60 of them in a row. And I wouldn't stop until I made 50 or 60. And that was, I think, what I was known for. And I felt that was the best use of my time. And I see people today that you go to a golf course, you see the driving range full. They're hitting drivers and 3 woods and everything else. And you see 2 guys on the putting green. The 2 guys on the putting green are usually winning most of the tournaments. And these guys haven't figured this out yet. So that's what I always worked on. I worked on that part of the game, and I felt that was important. Now I came down in my late 70s with a rare nerve disease, and so my balance is very bad. I can't find one of the things you have to do in putting. You have to be still, and so I can't. It's hard for me to be still anymore. So I'm a really spastic putter today. So I worked very hard on being absolutely dead still. and just letting the stroke go, but would not move at all. And that way you'd hit the ball in the center of the putter every single time. You have a pretty good chance of making your putts. So I worked very hard on that. Wasn't much fun. It was more fun hitting drivers. You learn how to play better hitting putts.
What a concept! Hit the ball in the middle of the putter and it'll go in. That's a
yeah. Now I just like to hit it on the putter someplace. But it's
well, you say that, but I still know that you're 84 years old today and you're still shooting your age, if not lower. So I don't think you're mishitting those putts too badly.
Well, I probably break my age 50% of the time that I play, and I don't really care about that. I'll hit one or two good shots. I top some balls. I do some strange things. But with this nerve disease that I have, it takes the strength out of your muscles and it takes your balance away. So those things are pretty difficult. But for 2 years, I couldn't play golf at all. So when I got to be able to play golf again, I said, I don't care what I shoot. Just let me swing the club and let's see what happens. So my attitude is good.
I imagine that it's for you now in this stage of your life with your golf game. I imagine it's more about, as you were saying, being out there with your kids, with your grandkids, with your wife, enjoying the times out there. Obviously not competing anymore, but as you said, you're not worried about your score and having this. If you didn't play for 2 years, it's almost like you got a second lease on your golf game here and just kind of enjoying it.
I not only did I have the nerve disease, I had a back issue. So when we're down here in Florida, I'm sitting on my porch watching the guys go by. And I said, boy, if I could just play golf again. I said, I don't care, what the number is. Just, I just want to be able to. And every once in a while I hit a shot and go, wow, that was really good. And I remember that. So I think golf teaches you a lot about life. It teaches you how to handle the ups and downs. It teaches you there's more morality in golf than any sport I know. I mean, everybody else is trying to cheat. In this game, you cheat, you're ostracized. It's a wonderful game.
And obviously, listen, Mr. Housen, I think Ryan and I could talk to you for hours upon hours. So before, we always have like a couple wrap-up questions here at the end. But before we do, I do want to kind of touch on the FCA a little bit in terms of, what that has meant to you.
Oh, that's tremendous.
Because I can speak on experience alone, being fortunate to go all 4 years when I was in high school, courtesy of yourself and Mr. Flaherty, that was an unbelievable time. And I know, again, when I listened to your speech at the NJSCA Hall of Fame, you brought up your faith being an important part of, keeping everything grounded. Why don't you speak a little bit about the FCA and what they've done?
Well, thanks for asking. When I was in my 40s, maybe mid 40s, one day I said, I do have the ability to get in front of some people because of some golf success. And what can I do as far as a charity is concerned? What can I do that would be meaningful to people's lives? And I thought, there's all kinds of wonderful charities, one after the other, and there's hospitals and everything else. I said, but I was more interested on something where we would get one-on-one and maybe impact people directly. And since I'm a Christian, I had heard about the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, so I contacted them, and they said they had a golf program, and they told me a little bit about it. And I said, well, maybe I can get something like that started here, because that way I have one-on-one. I'm right in front of you. I can talk to you. I can, I get to know you, and it's been a wonderful experience. One gentleman, his name is Justin Moran. Now, Justin came from the middle of Newark, and we invited a couple Newark, when they found the tournaments coming, they invited a couple Newark teams down, because I wanted these guys to have an ability to see what golf was all about too. And I met Justin there, and Justin and I became friends, and I've sort of mentored him through his early college days. And then he got into Cornell. And then from Cornell, he went to work for MasterCard. And then he got into Harvard Business School. And he's graduated from Harvard Business School. And he and I have been kept in contact pretty much monthly through all of these years. And it's been wonderful for me because I could see how this young man has grown. And I run into people all the time that say, well, Mr. Housen, we were at that event. It was so great. And I got in, I found out about the FCA, and that changed my whole life. So, you know, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have an impact, a direct impact. And I felt that was the perfect organization. We did it for 40 years. And the only thing that shut it down was COVID, because you couldn't get the kids to come out to the course. You couldn't get a gathering or anything like that. So maybe down the road we can do some again. But I thought it was, I thought it went over well. And we sent a lot of youngsters through the program. And it's a great group. That FCA is a very good group.
Yeah, and listen, I can speak on behalf of one of those kids that has gone through. You know, the experience itself was first class, from everything to getting there, to experiencing it. You know, it was an unbelievable thing. So I can also reiterate the things that you're mentioning as well. So, Mr. Housen, we kind of have two questions when we wrap this bad boy up, and I got the first one. And, you know, like, obviously our goal as golfers here in the Garden State is to kind of travel the state, play, talk, and experience all the unique qualities that there is here alone. If you could recommend to somebody that's listening, like maybe a public golf course that you always thought very highly of, and then maybe even a private golf course that if someone were to be invited onto, that they would need to drop what they're doing and go and play. So like maybe a public and a private that's always stood out to you in your career.
Okay, well, the public golf courses, first of all, in our area, we know we have used to be the Mercer County courses over there. You know, that was a fine golf course, and they had, I think they had the Women's Open there, didn't they? Or the, what's the name of it now? It's over there in Colts Neck.
Hominy Hill?
Yeah, Hominy Hill. That for a public golf course was really good. Now, if you ever have a chance to play Pine Valley, which I belonged to for about 10 or 12 years, if you ever have a chance to play Pine Valley, you got to go there. I mean, you have to skip your anniversary to go there. I mean,
it's funny you bring that up, because that when we ask people that question, I always have to preface it sometimes by saying exclude Pine Valley, because the opportunities that people actually get invited on there are few and far between. But the actual guests that we've had on who've been invited, it's like the first thing that pops up. It's the first thing.
Yeah, it is really. It's an unbelievable place. There's so many good golf courses now. You know, you can go pretty near anyways. If I were playing the golf today, if I was starting golf today, I would not try to play hard golf courses. I would go to places like Lakewood and whatever courses like that were fairly open with small greens that would require you to hit different shots in there. And that's how you would learn how to play golf. Some of these courses are just too hard. And, you know, I don't know why they design them like that, but they have to be a little friendlier. Shark River, places like that. That's where you want to learn how to play golf, quite honestly, my opinion.
So, Mr. Housen, the other question that we like to ask when we end is, you know, golfers can kind of be a little superstitious, quirky by nature. Was there anything when you were competing that you needed to have, whether it was like a certain amount of tees in this pocket or this, that? Like, what was something that you would say is something that you were a little superstitious about, maybe? Or
I'm not, but my father was a little superstitious. I'll tell you a little story about him. We were playing Lakewood, and he had a putt about 5 feet long, and I marked his ball because I was closer to it. I marked it, And he comes up and he looks at it and he says to me, "You marked it with a nickel." I said, "Yeah, I did." He says, "That's bad luck." I said, "I didn't know that." I didn't know the nickel was a bad luck. So I said, "I apologize." So I picked it up, and obviously he missed the putt. He says, "You never mark it with a nickel." I said, "Okay." So when my father passed away, we were always very, very close. And I know that the loved ones, they go to another area and they can communicate with you at times if you're open to it. So my pants are upstairs and my wife is shaking something out and the coin falls out and it falls down the stairs. And I said, "I know it's a nickel." I just know it's a nickel. I said, "Ducky's telling me something. I know it's a nickel." And obviously it was. But the only superstition that I have there is that. No, I don't. I have no superstitions at all.
See, I like that because you know how many times I've heard the 2 tees in my pocket, so on and so forth. So I'm a big just let's get out and tee it up, you know. But Mr. Housen, listen, I think Ryan and I could sit here and just listen to story upon story all day long from you. But I appreciate you giving us, you know, well over an hour of your time to kind of talk shop here. And I know our audience is going to love to hear this. So again, I just want to thank you for coming on the show. I really do.
Thank you for inviting me. I certainly appreciate it. I'm sitting down here in Florida. It's kind of cold. They had a frost freeze this morning down here in you know, Tequesta. I mean, they don't know how to handle that, but it's nice now. But I thank you guys very much and wish you all the success in this. And if I can help you in any way possible, certainly give me a call. But I'll talk to Christopher and tell him to contact you guys. And I know your old man will say, what do you mean? Can I come? So,
listen, yeah, I was going to say, tread lightly with that because he might say, "Do you need a 4th?"
That would be tremendous. I'm going to echo Mike there, Mr. Housen. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure when our paths cross. So thank you so much.
Okay, well, good. Nice seeing you again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Housen. I appreciate it.
Guys.